Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wagertalk, SportsMemo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wagertalk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.
Let's go.
Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show. I'm your host, Ronald Cabang, also known as UCapper from SportsMemo.com, at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt and Tony Finn from Wagertalk to break down 3 games from today's huge slate. But before we get into those games, I do want to talk about one of the promos we got going on over at SportsMemo.com and Wagertalk.com for Tony Finn. We have a 7-day NBA pass from the Triple Double panel this week. So that's for me, Moneyline Matt, Tony Finn, and Jeff Michaels, who will be here on Friday. That's 7-day NBA pass for just $49, pretty much $7 a day. Promo code for that is NBA7. Head over to sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com on a daily basis. See what we got going on over there. Capper's providing free picks and analysis on a daily basis. We also have the free live odds page that you could utilize. See where the lines and totals are going from minute to minute. So make sure you head over there after the show. And before you do that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here as well. It only takes a couple clicks and it helps our show grow tremendously. With that said, let's get Matt and Tony up in here with me. Guys, like always, starting the show off transparent. I was a $2 Tuesday handicapper yesterday. I went 2-1. Unfortunately, the loss was on the $2 Tuesday play. I had the Kings and the Celtics under the 239.5 from the open number. They get over by a bucket with, I think it was like the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The bench players came in and scored 19 points in that span to get over. It was a tough loss. It was looking good, especially at the halftime. But, you know, things happen that way. End up going 2-1. But like I said, the $2 Tuesday play was the one that really mattered the most because a lot of people will put their trust in me and it didn't happen. But hopefully next time we get it done. Tony, how was your week so far?
Not too bad. It's been it was a little slow Sunday, Monday, pretty good Monday. Yesterday, or I shouldn't say pretty good Monday, pretty bad Monday, and pretty good Tuesday. I had a 6-0 basketball sweep yesterday, 5-0 in the NBA, 1-0
nice
in college postseason. Got kind of a bounce back from a couple unfortunate occurrences on the hardwood on Monday, much like yours. That one there, I had I thought I had an over deadlocked, and then you get 12 points out of one team in the fourth quarter. Only one thing, guys. Only one thing has to go wrong to not get over 240. Yeah. This one wasn't 240, but we always talk about that 240 totals. It's not that everything has to go right. Only one thing has to go wrong, and you're going under. So there it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, Matt, how was your day yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday was fine. You know, it was a 2-2 day. I hit another money line bet. I am 13-2 my last 15 money line plays, and really seeing those well. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm looking for those -1, -1.5, somewhat even money spreads, and I'm just kind of taking the money line, either getting some plus money value or -110, -115, somewhere in that range. Seeing that very, very well. Late that I'm really liking. On top of that, we got the Dallas game. That's about an even money spread, and we got that Lakers very similar. And Monday, I went 2-0. We hit that best bet with Draymond Green. That was an official play for me, a plus money play. And then I teamed that up with Klay Thompson because when Draymond's getting those assists, a lot of times Klay Thompson is the one going with it. So some really good spots today, some good money line spots, some really good player prop spots. And, of course, we're waiting on some news as usual, but ready to break it down with the crew as usual.
Yeah, let's get into those games here. We got first up the Warriors and the Mavs here. Warriors 37-36 on the season, coming off a rare win and cover on the road over the Rockets there. This is the last of a 5-game road trip before heading home for 4 games. Mavs on the other side, 36-36 on the season. So this is a pretty important game for both teams here, especially going into the playoffs, playoff seedings and the play-ins. Coming off a loss to the Grizzlies, but they've covered in 3 straight games. This is the first of a 2-game homestand after 3 straight road games. Injury perspective, Luka, I think he got upgraded to probable right before the show here. Kyrie and Markieff Morris are both questionable. Iggy, Wiggins, Jerome, and Gary Payton are all out for the Warriors. Draymond and Looney are both probable, so we should see them in the lineup tonight. From a matchup perspective, they split the season series 1-1 with the home teams winning both games. The Mavs covered both games, and both games went over the total as well. This one is going to be in Dallas. So are we looking towards the home team again here? Tony, let's start with you.
I think was it you on Monday? We did a show. We talked a little bit about the Warriors, and at that point in time, before their Monday game, they were 0-11 straight up, and 0-11 against spread against the number as a visitor, right?
Yeah,
been really bad, and they've picked and they really, they hired a third. I explained this on the NBA show. They hired a third-party company, which they go through the schedule with the injuries they've had over the last few years. They're an analytical group anyway, but they hired a third-party crew to kind of pick and choose certain games where they're just going to rest guys, not whether they're healthy or not. They're going to rest them because they wanted them prepare at least healthy to some degree, as much as you can be after 82 regular season games on the hardwood, traveling, and we both know, all three of us know, that it's difficult, like in football. At the end of the season, when you say, well, we're healthy, you're really not healthy. You're just as healthy as you can possibly be under the circumstances. They covered that game. I actually took Houston and the points in that game. And it was another one of those games where on Monday that I lost that I thought looked great. At one point in time, we had a lead. It was late in the third. It was tied up, down 5.5. And for the most part, what happened was that, as Houston's done several times, they seem to crumble. When they're down, they just don't have that savvy, that leader on the floor, the experience per se, to hang tough or hang inside a double-digit number, which I thought they could and probably should have, but they didn't. So the Warriors get the win on the road. They get the cover on the road. Tonight, the real question is Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, right? It does appear that Luka will play. He was upgraded to probable. He made it through practice yesterday. Things have been going well. As far as Irving goes, he'd been playing through an injury, and they gave him a questionable designation, but he's been playing. However, in that game that he got hurt late in the fourth quarter of the last game, twisted. I think it was an ankle or a knee. I'm not certain. I read it all. I've talked to people about it, and here I am. I'm confused a little bit, which is not unusual for an old man like me. But in that game, here's the deal. This is an important game for both teams, guys. And you mentioned it. You have Golden State sitting in the 6th seed, which is a playoff spot. They're 11.5 out of first, but they're only half a game ahead of Oklahoma City, Dallas, a full game ahead of Minnesota, a full game ahead of Utah, and then right there behind them, the Lakers and the Pelicans. There's about 8 teams that are bunched up, and 2 losses in a row can really, one night is going to be jumbled up, right? I still don't trust the Warriors on the road. However, I trust them if you're not going to see Irving and you're going to see a hobbled and maybe a Luka that isn't quite 100% and probably a little bit off center, not having played for a couple weeks or at least 7 days, I believe. So that said, I played this Warriors team under their season total this year, and so far so good on that. But they need a lot of help. But they're basically an isolation offense with Luka. Irving changed that, but the Warriors seem to be healthy. Are we going to have the key pieces? Are the Warriors going to start playing? And what I mean is, I believe they can flip a switch, guys. I still believe, although they're not completely healthy, there's a team that can, when the playoffs come, they'll flip a switch and they'll be dynamic. Especially, they'll be better defensively. And we're getting to the point where that needs to start happening. So it becomes a dynamic that's a routine. And I'm not in this room. Don't have my arms wrapped around this game. However, if I was, I would probably, if Luka's going to play, I'd still get the Mavericks at home because he'll cry enough to get the calls he needs.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there that you made up about, the scheduling aspect. I listened to CJ McCollum talk about the same thing where right before the season, when he was still with the Blazers, right before the season, they actually got him and Damian Lillard together, looked at the schedule, and said, these are the games that you guys are going to sit, or you got to pick the games that you're going to sit. So I guess this has been happening for years, that they look ahead prior to the season and already know which games they're going to be sitting out for the most part. So that was pretty cool that you brought that up there. Not every day you hear that from a gambling or like a betting sports betting show. But you mentioned, the Warriors also. I mean, I think from their aspect, they could also flip at any time too. They got the experience on their side there. One thing that we've kind of been talking about with the Warriors is that there's at some point they're gonna have to flip it on the road. They did get that win and cover against the Rockets there. Maybe it's some type of momentum shifter for them. Here on the Mavs side, Luka hasn't played since, I think it's like the March 8th, so he could come back rusty. And if Irving is injured and hobbled playing playing hurt, that could actually hurt them more than help them. I mean, there's one thing that I looked at with the Mavs since the All-Star break, or actually since the trade deadline, when Irving moved over, when they're both when Irving was in and Luka was out, they've actually covered in 4 games, 4-0 to the on the spread there. But when they're together, they're actually 2-7 ATS. So putting them together combined, it almost seems like they're not yet. They don't have that chemistry together. So maybe the Warriors kind of take advantage of that. I'm not 100% sure I'll be playing this game from a spread aspect. But Matt, what are your thoughts on this if both Luka and Irving play?
Yeah, for me, if Luka and Irving play, I like the look of the Dallas Mavericks here. To Tony's point, this Golden State Warriors team is not a team that I trust on the road whatsoever at this point in time. The Houston Rockets are kind of just a perfect matchup for them. They play very little defense. They don't close out from the three-point line. So it was the perfect get-right spot for the Golden State Warriors. But now they face the Dallas Mavericks, and if Kyrie plays, if Luka plays, I'm definitely siding with the Mavericks here. And I am anticipating Kyrie Irving's props. I really do love the look of Kyrie Irving. He's had 30 points in his last 2 games against the Golden State Warriors, and he definitely loves going against against Stephen Curry. And, kind of touched on this last time, and I know there's a lot of news what's going on with Andrew Wiggins at this point in time, but I personally think this Golden State Warriors team is dead in the water without Andrew Wiggins. They desperately need Andrew Wiggins. They need his defense. They need his offense. They need his rebounding. And, one thing that without Wiggins, they don't have that defender who can go up and match up against the opposing team's number 1 guy. And in this spot, it would be Luka or it would be Kyrie. And now because of that, you have to have guys like Clay step up and guard some of those top guys. And that takes away on offense in addition to that. So for me, it's definitely the Dallas Mavericks here. This is a Golden State Warriors team giving up 124 points on average on the road this season. And, again, even if Kyrie does not play and Luka does, I would still back the Dallas Mavericks here. I think this Mavericks team has the players who can come in off the bench and make some plays. I know Tim Hardaway Jr. is also questionable in this spot, but if he plays, he's someone who can step up. Christian Wood is a tough matchup for this Golden State Warriors team. On top of that, outside of Kevon Looney, they don't have many big bodies who can match up with the 4 position or the 5 position. Josh Green is someone who attacks the basket, been playing well. And then Jaden Hardy, I believe from the G League Ignite, he's been making some shots out there. So I think this Dallas Mavericks team has the players who can step up in the spot, make the plays necessary. And if Kyrie Irving plays, I definitely love the Mavericks, and I'm definitely going to be on some Kyrie props tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. Obviously, the like you mentioned, the Warriors have been giving up points, especially on the road. They're 26-10 to the over on the road this season. The Warriors are, and they've on the opposite side here, the Mavs, they've kind of been struggling to cover the number at home all season long, and it's primarily because of their defense as well. So to me, it's really tough to take the spread from my opinion, because Luka's been out for a while. Golden State, we never know when they're going to flip the switch because they can when they want to. You got guys like Curry and Clay who can get hot at any moment. So for me, I'm going to stay away from the spread, but I think I like to look to the over here. I mentioned that trend, 2-7 ATS without Kyrie and Luka, but in those same games, 6-2-1 to the over. They pace up with Kyrie in the lineup. I think 2 or more possessions per game. You mentioned Matt Wiggins defensively, how he affects this Warriors team. They go from 114 to 117 defensive rating without Wiggins in the lineup. So a lot of things to me pointing towards the over. Mavs also 4-0 to the over, playing the first game at home following at least three straight road games. In those 4 games, they averaged a combined score of 241, and none of those games had OT. On the opposite side, from a schedule aspect, again, the Warriors 4-1 to the over in the last game of at least a 3-game road trip or more, and they average a combined score of 240 per game as well. So, yeah, man, I think to me a lot of things are pointing towards the over. I'll probably stay away from the side here. Did you have something to add there?
I was going to say, in my opinion, if you read the board right now, the live odds board, it's not showing it on the spread because it hasn't officially been announced yet. But the sharp money that's going on this total here is telling me that both Irving and Doncic are going to play at 236.5. You see, without one of those guys, I would assume this total would go. And let's say they announce that Irving's out, this total is going to go from 236.5. It's probably going to drop down to about 233. Now, if they announce that both guys are playing, I expect Dallas to go to about a -2, 2.5. So if you like Dallas, if you believe it like I are, they're going to both play, and you like Dallas, and you think Doncic's going to be able to step right in where he left off, or at least close to that, then you're getting pretty good value right now on a Dallas at a pick.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Nice. Yeah. Let's move on to this next one here. The Knicks and the Heat. Knicks 42-31 on the season, coming off an outright loss to the Wolves on Monday at home. Prior to that, they did win 3 straight. This is the first of a 2-game road trip. Also first of back-to-back games as well. They have the Magic on deck tomorrow. The Heat are 39-34 on the season. Both teams really in that playoff position in the East. They're coming off a win over the Pistons. They're well rested. They haven't played since Sunday. They also don't play again until they face the Nets on Saturday. So they could put a lot of effort into this game here to get the W and kind of put themselves in position to switch places possibly by the end of the season on the leaderboard in the East. From an injury standpoint, no one really of importance on the Knicks side, but on the Heat, they have Cody Zeller out. Lowry and Caleb Martin are both listed as questionable, but last I heard, Lowry is more likely to play than not. From a matchup perspective, the Knicks have won, I think, both matchups. They own the matchup this so far this season, winning and covering in both games as underdogs. They did win both games only by 2 points exactly on both games there. This seems like just a tight matchup overall. Matt, what are your thoughts on this game here?
Yeah, in this game, really the only way that I can personally look at it is with the under. And I remember talking about this game before, and I took the under, and I think they combined for 142 points. And with these two teams, I just can't see that happening again. You know, these are two of the slower teams in all of basketball. The Knicks run the 27th pace, and the Heat run the 28th pace. And then in addition to that, you know, these are two teams who lock down the middle pretty well. You know, the Knicks have Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle, and then the Miami Heat have Bam Adebayo. And when you are facing teams like that who lock down the middle well, what that generally means is you have to shoot good from the outside. And last time they faced off, obviously both teams shot pretty well from the outside, combining for 142 points. But other than that, when these two teams face off, these two teams do tend to go under. You know, before that, these two teams went under this total 4 times in a row. Now they're heading back to Miami. It's a big game for both teams as well. Both teams are still continuing to fight for playoff positioning. And this is a Miami team who, when they play at home on the season, they average 109 points given up per game. That's second best throughout the NBA. And then this is also a New York Knicks team who is holding opponents to 106 points when on the road. So for me, this one's pretty simple. If I'm going to go on anywhere, I think it's going to be with that under. Don't know if this one will be an official play after what they did last time, combining for 142 on me. But if I'm going to look anywhere, I think it's going to be with the under 224.5 here.
Yeah, I'm pretty. You kept saying 142, but I'm pretty sure you meant 242 there.
242, yeah. Good
yeah, exactly. I remember that game specifically. We talked about that one. This one for me, I do have my best bet is on the total here, so I'll talk a little bit about the side. The Knicks are 5-3 straight up and against the spread when on the road playing the first leg of back-to-back games. They've held their opponent under their team total in 7 of those 8 games there. So in this aspect, their defense is what kind of keeps them in these games here. on the Heat side, they've been one of the worst ATS teams at home. But at this number, we're really looking for them to just kind of win this game, not have to win by margin. They're 24-13 straight up at home this season, 11-24-2 from a spread perspective. But like I said, man, that 24-13 straight up is what is telling me that maybe the Heat could possibly be the side here at home. They do better there from that aspect, but asking them to win by margin is where you want to kind of fade them. From here, I just feel like things are kind of coming together for the Heat offensively. They've kind of been struggling for the most part prior to the All-Star break. They were like bottom 5 or something offensively, but also one of the better defensive teams in the league. Now, post All-Star break, I think they've come up a little bit. I mean, obviously they're not the top 10 offensive rated team, but they're more towards the middle of the pack rather than the bottom 5. So some things are starting to click. I don't know, maybe because they're, Lowry has come back. He's coming back a little bit healthy. I don't know. I can't gauge this team from a full season perspective just because they've been always dealing with injuries all season long, and they're just not as consistent, especially at home. Tony, what are your thoughts on this game here?
Well, I think the latter part of your analysis there is spot on. You can't predict this Miami team because they're not who they were 2 years ago. They're not who they were last year. They are older, especially Butler. And while he's not a guy that's dynamic or flashy, there's no one that grinds like Butler. There's no one that knows how to take contact and get to the free throw line. And Hero's a little bit. I mean, I've put him in a category too. I think he's a little bit overvalued. Great shooter, but that's really what he does. He shoots, and that's what he's going to give you. The same with Duncan Robinson, and he hasn't played forever, right? So that said, and this is the third game. They've played twice this year. And you guys have already covered a little bit. My esteemed colleague here covered it really well when he said, listen, he looked at the total and looked at the under. The first 2 times these teams met, they had the total closed about 216, okay, earlier, a lot earlier in the year. The total came in at 210, came in under, okay? The second meeting, the total closed at 215.5, 216. It went over just as you guys have spoke about, and it didn't just go over. I mean, they had the same number of possessions. Because totals are all about possessions, opportunities, right? And yes, Miami ranks 28th, 96 possessions per game. New York, 97.52 possessions per game, actually. Exactly. However, it's skewed a little bit. They're playing a little faster now that Grimes is in the starting lineup. They play a little faster than that, so these are season long, right? They get closer to 100 now, 101, even 102. That said, they scored 1.25 points per possession in that second meeting with the same possessions they had in the first meeting. What was the difference? The difference was about 30 points. So it helps to hit shots, obviously, and you can't always predict those things. However, the adjustment today from the 216 to 215, the first 2 games, to 221 is an over adjustment based on what happened last time. And then, of course, it catches some steam. It goes up to 224. I'm one of those. I'm a lot about numbers and a lot about the math, and I'm willing to step in front of this adjustment and play under here. And I did play that, just so everyone knows. I did play the under here. I played it as a 3%er here at Wagertalk, and I like it.
I love it. All right, there you go. Free play from Tony Finn there on his Wagertalk card. I love it. All right, so let's move on to this next game here. Like I said, I'll talk about the total there just to let you guys know I am in alignment with them, but I'll break it down a little bit later. Last game here, Suns and Lakers, 38-33 for the Suns here on the season. Coming off of that loss to the Thunder, they've actually lost 4 of their last 5 games, also failed to cover in 5 straight. So really, they're not in good form at the current moment. This is the second of a 3-game road trip for them as well. Lakers on the opposite side here, really fighting for their playoff lives here, 35-37 on the season, currently sitting 11th in the West, just right outside the play-in spots. But Tony kind of covered that West Coast standings right there, where teams from, I think it was like 6 to like 12 are within 2 games of each other. This is the 3rd game of a 5-game homestand for them, so they've been sitting pretty at home. From an injury perspective, KD and Ayton out for the Suns. LeBron Mo Bamba out for the Lakers. AD is listed as probable, so we should see him there today. Matt, let's start with you on this game. Are you looking towards the prop side, or are you looking toward the side here?
Yeah, this is one where I'm definitely looking at the side currently, but I do think some particular players have some viable props in this matchup. One guy that I'd be looking to is Anthony Davis, even though he has been pretty hot and cold as of late. But you would assume going against Jock Landale, this would be kind of a prime time spot for Anthony Davis. And I'll be honest, guys, Tony just gave out a free play. This is probably going to be another free play for me. Actually, I know it's going to be a free play for me, and I'm going to be going with the Los Angeles Lakers. Like I've been telling you guys, I have been seeing money lines very well in these pick'em spots. I'm 13-2 my last 15, and I'm going to be backing the Los Angeles Lakers in this spot. And, when you come down to this point in time in the NBA season, a lot of the time I like to back the team who is more desperate, the team who is fighting for their playoff lives. And I think that's the Lakers here. This is a Phoenix Suns team who, when they made that trade for Kevin Durant, they traded away a lot of their depth on top of that. And I think we're really seeing that here because Kevin Durant goes down. This Suns team really doesn't have a ton of depth coming off that bench. They're having to rely on guys like Cameron Payne, Josh Okogie. And now you're not going to have DeAndre Ayton in this matchup. And that's tough for me just because, Anthony Davis is one of those guys. I know sometimes he just comes out in games and takes a nap, but he's one of those guys who can go and get 35 and 15 any given night. And this could be one of those spots with how desperate this team is. In addition to that, I love what I'm seeing from this Los Angeles Lakers bench. Austin Reeves is a guy who's becoming a shot maker. He's a guy who's getting his teammates involved. He facilitates well. Another thing that I'm looking at here is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's defense is lethal for this Lakers team, and I think he can match up with Devin Booker here and help to limit him. And then if you limit Devin Booker, you're relying on a lot of these role players from this Phoenix Suns squad. And like I just talked about, I don't think those role players are all that good. I think they need their three-headed monster at all times with Chris Paul, with Devin Booker, or I should say four-headed, Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton, and they're just missing that right now. So when you're missing guys like that, at this point in time with the NBA, a lot of these teams are trying to create these three-headed monsters, these four-headed monsters. And when you create that, you trade away your depth. So if one guy goes down, you are in trouble. And then I go and I look at this Lakers team, and you got guys like D'Angelo Russell, who's balling right now. He's getting people involved. I already talked about Austin Reeves. Rui Hachimura was traded for a bag of chips, and he is a great player. He's a rebounder. He's a mid-range shot creator. And then, you got Dennis Schroeder. All in all, I just really do like this Lakers squad tonight. I don't know if this is going to be a 3% pick. I don't know if it's going to be a 4% pick, but I'm going with the Lakers. I'm going to be for sure backing them here.
Yeah, I like that look a lot. I mean, I think one thing to mention too, is just a side note is Scott Foster is reffing this game here, and there's some history between him and Chris Paul. So I mean, if you guys look at that stuff from that type of angle, that's something that you could take into your capping aspect. But I mean, you kind of touch on a lot of pieces there, especially the fact that things that happened at the trade deadline affected this. Not affected this game specifically, but affected both teams. You mentioned the depth going away from the Suns there, and then the Lakers adding a whole bunch of depth. That kind of shifted how the outlook of this Lakers team has gone. And, not having LeBron and all the experience that the rest of the squad is having together, when he does come back, and if they are in that playoff contention, they could be a tough team in the playoffs because of that. One thing that I did look at from a total perspective, team total perspective, I was actually looking towards the team total Suns under their number. You mentioned the defense from the Lakers, one of the best defensive teams post All-Star break, 10-3 to the under, and it's primarily because of their defense. They've held 8 of their last 9 opponents under their team total. From the Suns side, they've gone under, I believe, in 5 of their last 6 team totals as well. They've kind of been struggling ever since KD was out, and it is because of the depth that went away with that KD trade. So for me, a lot of things are pointing towards the under, more likely the Suns team total under. Tony, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Well, I looked at this game and knew that Ayton was out. The first thing I want to do is I was anxious to see, while we know it's square play, we're going to play AD over his rebounds, assists, and points. It's a square play. However, I think it's a good spot for him, with no Ayton. Now, basically his averages across the board, his assists points, his par was a little bit higher than what his averages are. So they accounted for Ayton being out, and so I got off of it immediately. I want to get the averages, and I want to have the edge there. See, however, Matt mentioned Vanderbilt. When Vanderbilt's on the floor, since they put him in the starting lineup, this Lakers team is 6 points better per 100 possessions defensively than they were with him coming off the bench. I mean, that was a big trade. It was a big pickup. It was a great insertion in the lineup. However, I think against the Suns, Matt also mentioned they don't have a bench now. I mean, they traded their bench away. They have no bench without Ayton, without Durant. If I'm coaching the Lakers, I'm going to tell Russell and Beasley, I want to run. I think when it comes to Ayton, what the Phoenix is going to do tonight, they're going to cheat. They're going to play off of Troy Brown, play off of Vanderbilt, guys that are not even double-figure scores. And every time Davis gets the ball, they're going to be trying to bother him, double him, whatever. They'd rather be beat by Brown and Vanderbilt than they would be by Davis. And this Suns team, as much as LA needs to win, boy, these Suns need to win too.
Yeah, one more thing to add on this game here. Lakers as home dogs versus teams with a winning record. Some of these games were post All-Star break with the new roster and without LeBron. So I looked at that trend there, 7-5 straight up, but they're 8-3-1 ATS and 9-3 to the under. When I mentioned the Suns team total under, those opponents in that trend there, the home dogs versus teams with a winning record, 9-1 to the under in their team total for the Lakers opponents. But both of those games that went over their team total went over because of OT and only by a couple of points. So a lot of things are pointing towards, to me, the Suns team total under. I might get there to the window with it. It might become a premium play, but my best bet will be a premium play. And it sounds like it's going to be Tony Finn. So I'm just going to go straight into that one there first. It is that Knicks and the Heat under. I think the total is going in the opposite direction here. 224.5 from the 220 open. Like Tony mentioned, I think they over adjusted because of what happened in the last game there. If you look from a trend perspective, the Knicks, I mentioned that the ATS spreads on the road playing the first leg of back-to-back games, but also they're 6-2 to the under in that spot as well. Like I mentioned, they've held their opponents under their team total in 7 of those 8 games. On the Heat side, at home versus conference opponents, 13-10 to the under. While that doesn't seem like a great record, if you look at the average combined points, it's 219.1. That's about 5.5 points below the current total. And if you go a little bit further on that and you say that they're playing a team with a winning record, 6-4 to the under. The defense on both sides of the ball become a little bit more apparent. Average combined score about 214.2. So we're seeing about 10-point gap between the total tonight's total and also the average combined score in that trend there. From a league-wide perspective, which I like to look at a little bit more than the teams, this season, road dogs playing the first leg of back-to-back games versus an opponent that has 2 or more days of rest going into their next one. So basically, one team is in a fatigue spot. The other team, they have a lot of energy going into this game and after it, right? Because they don't have to worry about load management or managing the minutes of their key players. So they could put a lot of energy into that defense, not only on the offensive side of the ball. Those games this season, 25-7-1 to the under. Pace of play slows down as the teams playing the next day need to reserve that energy. Like I mentioned, then the opposing teams, they don't have to worry about the next day or even the day after. They got 2 or more days of rest, so they pick up the energy on the defensive side of the ball. And those combined under the 220 mark as well. So a lot of things to me pointed towards the under. That's going to be a premium play, and that's the free play for today. Other than that, I'm probably going to add about 2 or 3 more plays to my card. I think 4 total was what I was targeting or that I had my eye on. Haven't posted those yet, but they will be up probably around the noontime when I normally put my games up. I like to wait for the injury status of some of the key players there. Tony, let's go with you here. What's your best bet for today's show? Also, talk to the people what you got about what you got going on over at Wagertalk.com.
I have 4 positions in the NBA. I have 3 game positions, 1 prop, top player prop, and I have a standalone college postseason game from the NIT, UAB Vanderbilt. I have a side on that I really like. So that said, I've given out one of my plays. One of the 4 is the under in that Knicks and Heat. and the best bet that I have for the show, which is the Denver Nuggets and Washington Wizards over. I'll explain to you why I like the over here. It's a number I hit last night with Washington last night, and it went the wrong way last night. They brought this thing down because Kuzma was out, and I expect Kuzma to be out tonight too. The issue that I have with going the wrong way in Kuzma, sure, Kuzma's average is 20 points per game. However, he's worth about 3 to 4 points defensively because of his rebounding, the ability to his savvy. He knows where to be, where the ball's in the air, et cetera, that good rebounders know. And that's a problem against Denver. Basically, at 2 stretch fives. You got Porzingis, and of course, you got Joker. And so neither one of these teams are very good at the rim. Both give up over 50 per game. You're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot of guys dribble drives, and they're going to kick out the 3-point shooters. But for the most part, what you're going to see tonight is no defense. I'm not convinced that Washington's going to play Kuzma, even if Caruso. I say Kuzma. Well, that's Kuzma. I'm sorry. I'm reading my other notes here. But yeah, I don't think they're going to play him. There's no real reason to. I think the Wizards are dead. They're dead in the water. Even if they were somehow to sneak and climb into play-in games, it's a one and done situation. So I really like the over here with the Nuggets and the Wizards, and I got 227.5 is what I got. I think it's up to 228 and climbing.
I like that play a lot. Part of it, like you mentioned, that Kuzma effect, it was one of the reasons I took the Magic yesterday and they were able to win. You mentioned their defensive rating, right? Without Kuzma, it actually goes up. Goes the opposite direction. They're worse by about 7 points in the defensive rating, but offensively too, they actually get a little bit better somehow, even without Kuzma. So I like that play a lot. You might have actually talked me into that one. Matt, what is your best bet for today's show? Also, what do you have going on over on the premium side at SportsMemo?
Yeah, guys, I already got one play loaded over at SportsMemo currently. Definitely liking at least 3 or 4 different plays tonight. I think we got some good opportunity on tonight's slate, if I'm being honest. And got back in the winners column last Monday with the Draymond Green assist prop. And today, we're actually going with kind of another dark horse player, and it's going to be Mike Conley, over 18.5 points plus assists. Because right now, Mike Conley and the Minnesota Timberwolves face off against the Atlanta Hawks at home this Wednesday evening. And this is a spot where both Anthony Edwards and Jaylen Noel are questionable coming into this matchup. But regardless, if Anthony Edwards is in, if Anthony Edwards is out, I think Mike Conley is the guy to step up in this spot, because Mike Conley has been averaging 16.3 points and 4.9 assists since Anthony Edwards has been out. And this is a Timberwolves team who's now facing a Hawks team who is 4th in overall pace throughout the NBA, 22nd in adjusted defensive rating. And Mike Conley is also going to be going against Trae Young, who's potentially the worst defender throughout the entire NBA. And, if you've been tuning into this show, I love targeting Trae Young. And this is just another scenario where I'm going with Mike Conley because he's going against Trae Young, and he has been the guy kind of carrying that load for the Minnesota Timberwolves while Anthony Edwards has been out. And, Jaylen Noel is also someone who comes in off the bench. He helps to get some buckets, some points going, stuff like that. And this is also an Atlanta Hawks team who is 20th throughout the NBA in assists given up per game. And they are also 27th in opponent 3-point field goal percentage. So again, when Mike Conley is driving to the basket, dishing out, things of that nature, those buckets are probably more prone to go in when you're facing a team like the Atlanta Hawks. And take a look at this total. This is another game that has a 241.5 point total and a -4.5 spread to the Timberwolves to go with it. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this spot. This is a Hawks team giving up 119 points per game while on the road, 24th worst throughout the NBA. And once again, this is just a great scenario with Edwards in the lineup, with Edwards out of the lineup, because if Anthony Edwards is in the lineup, obviously, he probably gets a couple easy assists from Mike Conley, things of that nature. And the Atlanta Hawks are actually probably one of Mike Conley's favorite teams to face in his entire career because he's averaging 15.4 points, 7.4 assists, and he's actually hit this number in 14 of his last 16 matchups. So once again, he loves going against Trae Young. He gets his teammates involved. He likes to get out, run a little bit of pace. So for me, once again, this is kind of a random play, but I really like the look of Mike Conley tonight. I think he takes advantage of Trae Young. I think this game gets out and runs, and wouldn't be surprised if the Timberwolves take this one and win this one outright on top of it. So I'm with Mike Conley tonight.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to flock to Taurean Prince because of how he played the other day. I think he scored like 35 points. So it's good to pivot and go to the next person up. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. With that said, guys, that is the end of the show. We've broken down 3 games, gave our best bets as well. Before we go, I do want to make sure you guys remember that we have that 7-day NBA pass for myself, Tony Finn, Moneyline Matt, and Jeff Michaels. Tony Finn's over at Wagertalk, the rest of us over at SportsMemo.com. The NBA Pass, 7-day NBA Pass, $49. The promo code for that is NBA7. Make sure you guys head over to SportsMemo.com and Wagertalk.com on a daily basis. See what we got going on over there, or the free live odds pages, free picks and analysis on a daily basis. Also, make sure you guys, before we end this up, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Our next show will be on Friday. We'll have Jeff Michaels with us, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on this same channel. Till then, good luck with all your action. Peace.
Play ball. Hot off the press, handicappers from Wagertalk, SportsMemo, and the Gold Sheet have collaborated on the 2023 Wagertalk Media MLB Betting Guide. From World Series odds to regular season win totals and everything in between, this year's betting guide features previews on all 30 teams, all 6 divisions, and season-long awards like the Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year. Each preview contains key roster acquisitions and departures to help you get up to speed before opening day. Visit wt.buzz/MLB23 to download your free guide, and we'll see you in the batter's box.